Hi, it's Mike with AskTractorMike.com. In my last video, I talked about the question I probably get asked as much as any other question on this channel is how big a implement can I put on my tractor? And I'll have people send me their tractor model numbers and an implement they're either looking at a dealership or on Craigslist or online, and will those go together? And I always try to help folks answer that question. And in my last video I talked about 10 things to think about regardless of what that implement is, and I'll put a link at the end. But the last thing of those 10 things that I talked about was the operator, it was you. And what kind of care do you take of that implement? And I'm going to talk today about customers and the different types of customers that I've encountered in my 25 plus years in the ag equipment business. And the customer is probably the most important factor in the whole equation when trying to answer the question, how long is my tractor, how long is my bush hog or brush hog, or how long is my hay equipment, how long is it going to last? Probably depends as much on you, the customer, as it does on the equipment. And so today I'm going to tell you a couple of stories about people that I know that maintained their equipment, that took it to the outer limit of its capability and did just fine. And then what happens when you don't maintain your equipment? And if you're watching my video series, you're probably one of those people that takes really good care of your equipment. Because you're trying to educate yourself on what are the capabilities of my equipment. And so you're probably way ahead of the guy or lady that just buys a piece of equipment and they think they bought a bulldozer or an army tank and they just run it out wide open and not maintain it and it won't blow up. And those are the folks that caused us the most grief in the dealership world and in the manufacturing world. I was a factory rep and a dealer, and I've been on both sides of it, and you get into warranty issues, and a lot of times the warranty issue came from the operator of the tractor. I'm going to tell you a story today about when I was a factory rep, and I went on a sales call with a dealer, and I saw one of the craziest things you'd ever seen. There was a guy clearing land with an old Zetter tractor just beat to a pulp and a 6-foot cutter, and I don't know what brand of cutter it was a heavier cutter, but he had 7-foot blades on it, so the blades stuck out a foot under the bottom of the deck. And I don't recommend this, but he was cutting down trees that big around. And what he would do, he would go back to the tree with a PTO running wide open and back into that tree with that brush hog, and that blade sticking out would girdle the tree and eventually push it over. And then he'd run over whatever was left. And the tractor and the cutter was just beat to a pulp. There's welding on everything. And I was hoping the dealer didn't trade for the tractor because I don't know how he'd ever sell it. But that kind of thing you see. And that customer was taking his equipment to the outer fringes of its capability and doing just fine. But I guarantee you, he maintained the equipment, and he was willing to pay a little bit extra to maintain it because he knew he was going to be hard on it and work it to its outer fringes of its capability. But if he thought he could do that and have any damages covered under warranty, he had no illusion of that. I had another friend, one of my really good friends that ran hay equipment, and around Springfield, Missouri, he cut lots of hay ground that had been turned into development area, and maybe the houses weren't built on it yet. He'd come in and cut the hay off of it, and he cut a lot of hay, baled a lot of hay, and the longest butt chewing I had as a dealer came from him. And what he'd done, he'd tore the tongue out of his New Holland baler, and they didn't have a replacement tongue in stock because nobody ever tore the tongue out of the baler. Now they came up with one, but it took a long time to get it there. It was hay season. He was upset, and we're good friends. It was all good natured, but he really unloaded on me because we didn't have that part, couldn't get it there that quickly. Well, nobody ever tears the tongue out of a baler unless you're running wide open. Now this buddy of mine, I've done videos with him, and he's a good friend. He runs his equipment to the outer limits of its capability and does just fine, but he does maintain it, and he does budget for failures, for breakdowns. and he knows how to fix it. He's very mechanically oriented, but he greases it and does all the maintenance right at the intervals. He takes care of his stuff, and if he sees something that's failing, he fixes it before it fails if he can. Those are the kind of people that run stuff to the outer limits of its capabilities and do just fine with it. And if you're that kind of person, budget for failures, maintain your stuff, and you'll be fine. But no, it's not going to last as long if you're working it that hard. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, we had a customer when I was working at the dealership that bought a brand new disc mower, and the hired man was running it. And hired help on farms gets dealers in trouble a lot. But they brought this disc mower, which was almost new, into the dealership in 3 pieces, and said this thing just fell apart while we were driving in the field. And the New Holland rep was there that day, and he decided he wanted to go out and see just exactly where it fell apart in the field, because when a disc mower stops, you can tell where it stopped, because there'll be tall grass on one side and mowed grass on the other side. So we went out to the field, and turns out there was a bedrock sticking out of the ground about that far with red paint on it. And obviously he had tried to cut a field that probably shouldn't have been hayed, and he had run over the rock with the disc mower running too fast, and it had just blown it up. And so that kind of customer has lots of problems, and those kind of folks tend to not educate themselves about the limit of the machinery, tend to not be good at maintenance, and they're going to have a lot of failures. And so if you're in the former group, in the group that really takes care of their stuff and doesn't push it hard all the time, or if you push it hard, you maintain it and you budget for failures, you're going to be just fine with equipment. If you're the kind of person that really wants to get out and just run it wide open and not maintain it, you're going to have a lot of problems. And there's really no way for me to predict what type of implement is going to last you the longest on your tractor and how you're going to get a long life out of that tractor without knowing what kind of operator you are. But most of the people that ask me, I want to tell them, you don't have anything to worry about, because you're asking. You're in that kind of group of people that take care of their equipment. Last story today, I was back in the shop with one of my best techs when I worked at the dealership world, and he had the cheapest Bush Hog brand cutter that they make. Their entry-level 5-foot Bush Hog cutter that the customer had just destroyed, and he was putting it back together and doing welding on it and everything. And he told me, he said, "Mike, this cutter would last you or me a lifetime, and this guy has taken it out and in a short time has torn it up." And that's testimony from a guy that works on that equipment all the time. The operator has so much to do with how the equipment is going to last. So take care of your stuff and maintain it, and you'll be just fine. No guarantees there won't be a big failure. There's no guarantees about any equipment. It could be a brand new tractor and cutter and go out and fall flat on its face, and it doesn't matter what color it is. That happens. But if you take care of it and maintain it, you're probably going to be just fine. And I don't think you should be worrying about it. Appreciate you watching my videos. That last video I did about 10 things to look at if you're trying to size your implement to your tractor is right here. If you'd like to subscribe to my YouTube channel, I'd appreciate it. Check the mic face icon and check the bell so you're notified when I post videos. And if you're looking for a gift for the tractor owner, go to my website. There's some pretty unique stuff there. Thanks for watching.